Hey everybody. Wow, my webcam is super overexposed. I don't know what's going on with that. Let me... That doesn't help. Wow, this is weird. I just checked it right before I went live and it was okay. Okay, there we go. I'm not sure. It's still a little overexposed. That's the auto setting. I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to mess with that. But let's go ahead and get on with the stream. I hope you're all doing pretty good today. It's a little cloudy, so maybe that messes up the light as well, because we've had really nice sunny weather last couple days. But yeah, my morning's gone pretty well. I think it's time to... Oh, I'm ready to start programming. Let's see. So yeah, we're gonna work more on the toon shader today. And last time I was having a lot of trouble figuring out how I wanted ambient light to work. I guess we can see how it is right now. Yeah, so right now the back is like completely dark, and I don't really... I'd like to be able to see a little bit of the texture behind it. In order to do that, I was going to do something kind of... Well, we had this where we could just add the ambient light from Unity. Okay, I guess I messed up something. Oh, right. This needs to move after we define color. Yeah, the only problem with that is that even if I set this to be a darker color that doesn't get added, the black part is still just a flat color. So I don't really like the way that looks. And also it's not cell shaded. And the thing about these shade SH9 is something in Unity called a spherical harmonics, and it's kind of like an approximation of any light that's over the light limit. And it's not cell shaded, and there's not really a way that we can cell shade those spherical harmonic lights because the color is like directly encoded in them, unless we were able to extract the intensity of the light from the color. I don't know, I don't think it would look super good. So what I was planning instead is we'll actually have a light ramp that's specific to one light. Let's see. So here's a light ramp for directional, or for all lights right now. Also, okay. Another thing is that this light dot that we use to... Oh yeah, this is kind of messed up, isn't it? Light dot is what we use to actually sample the texture. Right now it's between 0 and 1, which is, well, how you have to do a UV. But it cuts off any faces that are on the other side, like in the shadow of the light. So that's why it's just pure black, because it's just sampling this end of it. But for directional lights, I kind of want the directional lights to also define the ambient light, at least the main light will. And in order to do that, I think I'll let the light ramp go from -1 to 1, and so we'll need to scale it for that. Yeah, so let's see. Light dot. And again, I'm just going to assume that we're working with a directional light right now. For our point light and spotlights, it won't really make sense to use this kind of thing because both of those and deferred lighting won't even affect any faces that are on the other side of the model. So yeah, we can't use it for that, but it'll be fine just because probably there'll just be one main directional light, which is the main light in the scene, and that will define the ambient color. Okay, so what am I trying to do here? Oh yeah, if defined. Well, I guess I don't have to do that right now because we're gonna have one ramp per light. Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second. Let's again, we'll just assume that we'll do this for all lights for now. So right now this light dot ranges from -1 to 1, and so we need to first add 1 to it and then half that, so it ranges from 0 to 1, which is what we have to use to as the UV for this texture. And saturate makes sure that it stays within that range. So yeah, light dot divided by 2 plus 1/2. Okay, so now let's see how that looks. Yeah, so now basically the directional light lights the whole model. And we can see this very little bit on the opposite side of the light is black. So what we'll want to do probably is we won't even have this black color. And this will be on the opposite side. Okay, I would like it to be exactly half. So the width should be 128. Oh, I did 1000. That's not right. And let's set the X to 0. Okay, and then let's have another one. That's this partial shadow. Right there. This should probably be a bit darker. I just wanted to show a little bit of the texture, and then this will be more mid-gray. All right. Oh, it did. Okay. Yeah, whenever I change it, the shader gets a little confused. I wonder, it'd be nice if I could get the shader set up to run in editor code. I think that there's a way to do that. I think you run in edit mode. I think you can put this tag on something. Unity run code in editor. Okay, it's execute in edit mode. I don't know if it'll work with the awake function, but I guess we'll see. That way I won't have to play. Okay, well, it didn't do anything right there. Oh, it's still compiling. Okay, there we go. So this looks more how I wanted it to. We have we can still see the texture behind it, but it's obviously shadowed. And the reason we can't do this for all lights is because if we have another directional light, the ambient right here in the shadow, they would add together. You can see that the shadow lightens a bit. It's a little hard to tell. And I really would like... So for the secondary light, I would like this part to just be black, and so it wouldn't actually add any color to the ambient light. So what I want to do is have like a per light color, and there's a few ways we could do it. Like the main light. Oh, Actually, I'm not sure how Unity decides what the main light is. Because I even set this one as important, but this one is still the additive light, I think. Yeah, so it wouldn't be... I was going to say that we could have one texture, or like something like this. Oh, yeah. So we'd have like a main light tune ramp and then a secondary light tune ramp. The issue with that is that there's not a way that we can like specifically define which one is the main light, so it'd be a little bit dangerous to use, I think. Let me see. Unity define our set base pass light. So forward rendering, yeah, we know that. Okay, well this is kind of interesting because we're not going to use vertex lights or spherical harmonics, so I guess I'll add that in so Unity won't generate unneeded data. Okay, what was it? Pass flags, and then I just add only directional, I guess. I'm not sure if I need a comma there or not. Okay, well, it seems like it was okay. Yeah, so that won't actually change anything about Unity now. It's not going to send in extra information. So, like, one issue with our toon shaders is that, yeah, on forward rendering mode, we can only support the number of pixel lights. But as I said, we're going to try to target deferred mode, and I guess worst comes to worst, people that have old graphics cards that have to play in forward rendering mode just won't see some of the pretty lights. It's not a huge deal because I can't really support the ambient or spherical harmonic lights or vertex lights in this toon shaded mode. It just won't look good. Also, why on Egg Dino? Okay, I guess it's just because of the way the specular works with the way I've created the mesh. It just looks a lot more blobby instead of nicely defined. Yeah, I was thinking that I really should have made the eggshell have a bit more polys in it. I think it's too low poly. But yeah, we'll look into that. I'm not sure if I really like the way the lights blend together and they're not like one color per face. There's pros and cons. But anyway, let's get back to the shader. So, okay, we can't really... I don't think I can control what the main light is. Unity, control the main light in base pass. Lights have the intercept mode to not important are always per vertex or spherical harmonics. The brightest directional light is always per pixel. Okay, so That might not be what we want because, well, the only time I can think of where the main light would be pretty dim is if you're in like a gloomy dungeon or something. And the main light is dim and it's mostly just for ambience, and then you have a bright spotlight or something for like a torch. And in that case, well, it doesn't say. Oh yeah, it says the brightest directional light is always per pixel, so I guess that would be, maybe we could define it that way. But the only problem then is that every spotlight would have to have the same ramp. Well, we can do that if I have another idea, and if this idea doesn't work, then we can fall back. So what I was thinking is that we'll actually use a texture 2D array like we did with what's it called? Terrain. Except, well, not except, and then we'll define which index the lights read from based on the alpha value, because as far as I know, this alpha value is not used in the light's color, but it's still passed to the shader. Another option is if something is wrong and this alpha value is actually like reset or something based on Unity, then we could use the red value, but then we couldn't actually use a light color and we'd have to bake that into the ramp, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but I think it'd be nice if we could vary the color based on this multiplier. So anyway, okay, I think for 2D arrays we have to use pragma target 3.5, so we were already forcing 3.0 because that's what deferred lights need. Let me... Okay, don't take me to the new thing. So, shader, target. I want to see what platforms I won't support. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter because we already need 3.5 for the terrain, and that's kind of not negotiable because there's no other way we can do terrain. So for 3.5, can't use Windows Phone or OpenGL 2.0, which I think is iOS, or older iOS devices anyway. So yeah, this is still supported on consoles, which it's not like we're only going to release on PC because of the shaders, I think, but okay, yeah, we won't use a geometry shader, so that's okay. Okay, so anything that has DirectX 11, which would be anybody running a new version of Windows. Okay, so I think we should be fine. So yeah, here we'll just need to target 3.0. I think I can just put this up in the, or 3.5 I mean. I think we can put this on the sub shader so I don't have to include it in every pass. Oh, this is a deferred lights, but yeah, I don't need to target 3.52 because it will use the global texture array. Okay, I don't even have a pragma here. I think this has to be inside a CG program thing, so. Okay, let's see if doing that made any errors. Must be present in the share snippet. Okay, I just didn't like that I have this CG program without anything. Yeah, it doesn't know what to do. Okay, so I guess we're gonna have to put Pragma in each of these little sections. It's not a huge deal. Okay, so yeah. And now in the common lighting, we'll need to declare a texture 2D array. So light tune ramp. I guess I should name it light tune ramps. And then here, let's look in the terrain shader again. Yeah, this is this Unity sample texture 2D array, and the UV is just float 3 for the index. Okay, so change this to float 3, and the index is the third value, and it would just be the light's color alpha. And let's multiply that by RGB. Now, I forget if the index here is like the actual numerical index, or if it also has to range from 0 to 1. Let's look in our terrain generator and just see. I have this in terrain. Where does the game even get this from? It must be the second UV set. I guess you don't have to set a semantic there due to this being a surface program. But anyway, we can see where I set it. Yeah, so it's just the second set of UVs is the terrain indexes. Okay, again. I want to find the actual values that we add in there. Okay, there's a bunch of them. Okay, so it's just a texture index of the surface prototype. Which is an integer. Okay, so it must be, yeah, the numerical index. In that case, we'll need to have another global variable here, which would be, I don't know, light. Let's say number light tune ramps. And then we can just pass or just multiply the alpha value by this number. The reason we have to do this is because the alpha is between 0 and 1, so whatever value this is will determine the index in the array. Well, this shouldn't be a number. This should actually be like the last index, but it'll be fine. So then in the shader setup, we're going to need to generate a texture 2D array, which I think I do here. So this is where I figure out all the terrain. Oh yeah, right here. So we create a new texture 2D array with the width, height, and the number of textures. And if it has mip maps or not. Okay, can I set the sRGB here? I think there. I remember there's something that you can't. And it just matches whatever the first texture uses or something. Oh no, that's not it. Filter mode. Okay, this wrap mode W. We'll want to set that to clamp. We'll want to set all of it to clamp actually. Okay, yeah, then we copy the texture into the array. I see. So I guess we'll have to do that here in the setup for now, just for testing. Well, I know. They're always going to be 8 by 256. And right now we just have... Let's just do that, and now we can just sample this array. Dot length, okay, and then we'll have that format and no bitmaps. We don't want any of that. And this should be point and wrap mode clamp. Okay, I guess that sets all the modes at once, so that's nice. Don't have to do this, we already set that up. Okay, and yeah, no bitmap, so we can skip that. Copy texture source. That's not the right version of this, is it? Oh, that was the problem. Yeah, so it's source element, which I guess if you're going to copy a texture from another texture array. And the bitmap. Okay. And there's no bitmap, so we can just pass 0 to that. And this should be tune ramps. And then we'll also want to shader set global float. Num light tune ramps. Okay, and we'll want to subtract by 1 because this name, I don't really know what to name it. It's not like the, well, it should just be last light tune ramp, I guess. Because it's the index of the last ramp, so we can just lerp easier. Oh, right. I need to actually pass the texture array, not the array of textures. Are you happy now, Unity? Oh, still compiling. Valid subscript A, incorrect number of arguments. What do they mean, valid subscript A? Float 3. Color is a float 4. Or maybe a Unity Light. Maybe, yeah, that is a float 3. But we don't have to use a Unity Light structure. we could just have the light direction and then normal. Or light direction and light color, because that's all that's contained in this anyway. Float 3, light direction, and float 4, light. We could even I don't know. I was gonna say we could just pass the light color and then have a separate ramp index. The only problem with this is that I think, like for other types of lights, this light direction doesn't make sense. We'd actually want to have the light position. But I guess when we come to that, well, we could just make our own structure. Let me see. There's something, Unity light structure. I guess I could have looked this up in my file system because I still have it as well. Is it? Don't know if it's going to. Yeah, this isn't where it gets defined. Let me open it up on my computer and we can look in there. I think it might be in that auto light file. No, thank you. Okay, so Unity Light. Oh, it's not in here. Well, I just need to see if Unity Light is a float 3 or a float 4. I guess it must be a float 3 because there was no alpha in it. I just want to make sure. Okay, well this definitely has a Unity Light, so we can just kind of look backwards through the include files until we find the definition. Unity Lighting Common. Okay, here, so yeah, the 3 color, 3 direction. Okay, but yeah, it doesn't change the direction if we're in spotlight mode or anything. So how? I'm just gonna look real quick and see how it handles other lights. Okay, that's indirect lighting. Create light, so if it's point, the direction. Okay, so it just figures out the direction based on this fragment, of course. And I guess this light attenuation is what calculates the distance from this light. Okay, yeah, because it multiplies the light color by the attenuation. Alright, so I guess we're gonna just either have to pass and... Oh, hi Chocopix. Glad to see you today. Yeah, albedo, it's a fun word to say. How are you doing? Yeah, so I guess either I can use the Unity Light and then pass the ramp index separately. But before I do all this, I should really make sure that the light color includes alpha. Okay, I think, let's see here. So yeah, instead of, oh no, this is the wrong thing. I'm trying to find a material lighting, this is what I want. So we just won't even use this tune lighting. For now, I just want to test the light alpha to make sure that it is actually passed. Okay, so I'm trying to look in the common lighting to see the light. Okay, well that's not right. Material lighting. Okay, so it's the world, or just light color 0. And we get the RGB, so hopefully it does pass alpha. Nuclear identifier light. Oh yeah, so right now I should just still use the Unity Light. Just while I'm testing. And I'll just set that to 0. Okay, yeah, so now everything is white, and hopefully when I change... Oh, I didn't want to pick. Actually, let's undo that. Okay, I don't know why the color got set. Oh, this is the second light. So when I change the alpha here, hopefully... Okay, it does change color. So that's what I wanted to make sure, that the alpha was actually passed to the shader. And it is. So back to here, we can just undo this. So what is this last value? Oh, that's the alpha for the color. So I guess I would just pass. For now, let's not do that. Let's do a separate function. Get ramp index. And we'll just return the light dot. Oh wait, it's light color 0 alpha. If I can spell it right. And oh, I keep going to the wrong thing. So int ramp index, and we'll just multiply this by the last light tune ramp, and so it's basically going to light between them. No matching 5 parameter function. Oh, I didn't update the deferred lighting yet. It'll be pretty much the same, really. Okay, now the light color. Hopefully this light color is also passes the alpha. I should have tested that too. Float, get ramp index. light color dot alpha. I guess we'll know soon enough. So now I've got to play the game so the textures get sent to the shader. Oop. Texture 2D array has out of range depth. Oh, I didn't set anything. Copy texture called with mismatching MIP data sizes. Is the tune ramp, does it have MIP maps? No. Maybe the format is bad, but I've never had to set that before. Okay, what is the size of this? Yeah, 256 by 8. I think I told it not to have MIP maps. No, that's not needed. Okay, the texture formats must be different. So let's debug log light ramps 0 format. Oh, it's DXT1. Okay, so let's just change it to RGB 24-bit because that's what the shader is going to use. Alright, so now it works fine. Everything looks good. If I change the camera to deferred, it still works. Okay. And right now we only have one ramp defined, obviously. If I change to alpha, everything just stays the same. So if I make another tune ramp, so for this one, everything past the light should be black because I don't want it to affect the backside of the model. So yeah, just set that to 0 and I guess let's make it a little bit more noticeable, the difference. Okay, so let's name it tune ramp. I'll just be boring, tune ramp 2. What is an sRGB color? Oh yeah, no MIP maps. Clamp or point clamp, and then I'll need to override again to make sure it's the right format. We could probably do something smaller, like maybe I should do that compressed format, but we can mess with that later. And now if I go here and set another value into the array, Okay, so now, yeah, it's using that new ramp, and if I change the lights alpha, okay, it switches between them. Although it's not... Oh wait, no, it does work. The alpha values are a bit not what I was expecting, but I guess because it has to be all the way at 1 to set the index to 1. Which I guess is fine. Maybe it should round to the nearest index, I don't know. And now let's try it in deferred mode just to make sure that still works. And we'll need to look in the game to actually tell. Yeah, and it does. Okay, so I want to leave this one on the main ramp so it will light or do the ambient light, and then the second light can be on the second ramp. Okay, maybe that doesn't work with deferred mode yet. That's interesting. It's not even showing the light at all. Turn this off. There's still something. Oh, because the color is so dark. Okay, that was a silly on my part. Okay, so we'll want this to be, yeah, texture number 2. It seems like that light still overrides it though. Don't know why that is. Okay, well it works on deferred mode at least. Maybe because it's being set as a vertex light, even though I told the game not to do that. And so here we can see the difference of why I wanted to have 2 different ramps for these lights. Because when I set it to the first ramp that controls the ambient light as well, when we have 2 lights on, it adds the ambient lights together, and so it gets too bright. But then when we set it to the second ramp where the ambient is set to black, then it looks a bit better. Okay, so it works on deferred, but it doesn't work with forward rendering. And I think it has something to do, again, with vertex and pixel lights, even though this is set to important. Let's just try, maybe reload the game with them both on. Nope, still doesn't do anything. Oh, let's change that back to dark. Okay, so something's gone wrong with this forward add mode. Maybe it's this tag. Okay, still not seeing it. Oh, it's turned off now. Oh, there we go. I guess it... Oh, it looks bad because, yeah, the textures need to be rebuilt. Yeah, there we go. That's better. I guess it was that only directional thing. which means it doesn't actually do what it said in the editor. Hi Dylan Tweety. I'm trying to make a toon shaded, or a shader that does a toon shading style, which basically just means that there's specific cutoff points for lights instead of it being a smooth transition between different levels of lighting. And right now I was trying to get two different lights to mix together and just fiddling around with how Unity does it. But I think I finally got it working. Okay, this is in. I wish that maybe global shader variables just aren't set in editor mode, I don't know. But in play mode it looks fine, which I guess is what matters. Again, if I turn off the second light. Oh, that's black. Oh, that's because this one I need to set the alpha to 0 so it will use the first ramp. Oh, thanks, Dylan Tweety. Is this for a larger project? Yes. I'm trying to make the shader, like I'm making a game that's kind of a mix between like the map of Fire Emblem combined with the battle system of competitive Pokemon. So right now I'm just kind of doing a graphics pass. I can show you what the gameplay looks like so far, although it's a little bare bones still. Especially the interface. Ooh, okay. Well, the terrain is all messed up now, I guess because I'm messing with shaders, but... why is that? I didn't think I affected the terrain shader at all. Did I accidentally delete something? So where do I create the texture array? No, this is still the same. Oh, maybe it's because it's set to deferred mode and that's not supported yet. Yeah, so I need to change that back to forward rendering. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was it. Okay. Yeah, because this is excuse me, using one of Unity's surface shaders, and surface shaders don't work in deferred rendering mode. But yeah, so basically, oh gosh, my voice is breaking out. So basically, you select a monster, and then we'll have eventually a much nicer menu, and then you just move or select an ability, and then the second player can also move. And then they just move around on the battlefield and you'll be able to battle and do mind games as hopefully the final design. But we haven't actually programmed in much actual gameplay yet. I'm still working on the systems. Okay, so back to the shaders. I think I'm happy with the way this looks. So yeah, Perlight Ramp textures. One other thing I was thinking is the specular needs to be per object. So, because like the way specular lights work, that still looks pretty neat. Thanks, Dylan. I think it will be fun when everything gets complete. But yeah, the specular lights need to be per object because the highlights are kind of defined based on the properties of the material and not so much on the light. Like for instance, Egg Dino, I want the shell to be shiny but not his skin as much. Maybe we should do... let's think about that. So I guess we would just change the specular color based on some texture. So sampler, 2D, specular. I guess I'll just call it spec text. Oh, I always write text when I mean texture. And this ST is just another variable that Unity provides for information about tiling a texture. Which I actually don't take advantage of right here, I just realized. I forget the macro for that. Let me see. Yeah, it's in here. Okay, so they actually don't use the scaling. That's fine. I didn't think I would, but... You tried shaders for a while and couldn't wrap your head around them. How long have I been programming? Well, I've been programming games for a long time now. Probably at least 10 years. It was a hobby before I actually got into computer science. But shaders, yeah, are pretty difficult. I've really, probably since the new year, I've really been studying up on them. And this will actually be one of the first major shaders I've written, so... Okay, so anyway, what I want to do here... I might use the alpha channel for something, I don't know. Basically, I want to get a specular color out of I don't know so much if I want a specular color. I really just want to see either black or white specular strength. So we could put that into the alpha of the main texture. But what if we wanted to have semi-transparent in the main texture at some point? I don't know, it doesn't really matter so much right now. We'll come back and optimize later. So yeah, basically I just either want there is a specular color or not. So I can multiply this specular strength based on the texture. Okay, and so let's make that texture. I have alright, I've got to actually go into the files. Where is it? Oh, mod assets, I think. Models, egg dino. Okay, so yeah, the egg dino gradients. Alright, so yeah, the way I've done the texture for the egg dino is going to make it pretty simple to create this specular, I guess specular map. What I really want is for specular highlight to be a lot lower on the skin of him, but the egg, which is this off-white and blue, the specular highlight will be a lot higher. What is this white for? I think that's the... Oh, that's his nails, so that would be shiny too. Or sorry, claws. Okay, so I don't overwrite this, I'm gonna save this as a specular map. Alright, so no gradient anymore, and I'll just set this, the color doesn't matter, to barely any specular. So where am I from? I live just outside Houston, Texas right now. That still looks like it's a gradient. Maybe it's just a... Oh, it's probably an optical illusion. So this is the eggshell, and so I want this to have full specular strength. Just the same as these blue spots. Oop, don't want to stroke. Okay, and then this is the mouth. Well, actually the mouth would probably be pretty shiny too because it's has dino slobber. And then also the nails. So really the only part that won't have full shiny will be the skin. Oh, you're from the UK? I've always wanted to go there. Have you done much game development, Dylan? Okay, so let's change this to egg dino specular. Alright. And I guess right now it's a control. Well, I guess it is actually a color, so we'll leave sRGB. Emit maps are fine. I think that's okay. And clamp. So I'll need to place this into the materials I use for this. Yeah, let's collapse that folder. Oh, I don't actually define a property yet. For the specular texture. So this will be specular map. Probably if you don't define anything, it'd be black. Well, no, it'd be white, because then it would just be only defined by the specular color multiplier. Okay, I was overthinking that. And I think that's it. Now if I go back into Unity, it should pop up right there, so... Oh, yeah, we can see we have the specular lights back. Okay, I set it, but it doesn't seem to be making any difference. Because the specular highlights are still pretty strong. Oh wait, that's not the specular, that's just the normal light. And let's turn off the blue light so I can see what's going on better. Oh, well, we're also not in the actual game, so... It's interesting that specular color is kind of weird. Okay, so this... I think that's the specular light because it's the blue or the white color. If I go to Toon Dino and change this to like red, we can really see the specular highlight. Oh, well, you know what? It's because I don't have any specular. Okay, So we're gonna need to change a little bit more, I can tell now. We did 3 years of XNA, self-taught. Don't know anyone else who programs, so I have no idea. I loved XNA. I worked, one of my first game projects was in that. I kind of wish it was still around, but well, I think they actually did update it in something called Mono, but I've never actually used it. But you're giving Unity a try now. I do like Unity too, so it's a really nice editor. But part of me kind of wishes I could go back to XNA, like I said, because you had complete control over everything. And I am a bit of a control freak when it comes to game development, I've noticed. Okay, so anyway, one thing I see here that's wrong is, okay. Taking a while to compile. Well, there's a few things. For some reason... Oh, well, I just need to turn off this, and then that. I was going to say, I don't know why this is black and this is white, but it probably has to do with the UVs. So if I turn this off, they'll go back to white. Because, yeah, these don't have a specular map. And then this material is for the Toon Dino, and one thing, if we play the game, we can see that in the areas where there's supposed to not be specular, it's like the specular is just coming up as black, where it actually should just be the albedo color. So how do I want to deal with that? Mono game, yeah, that was it. Works almost exactly like XNA. I think it was built off of it. Maybe I'll give it a try sometime, but I don't know, I have a lot tied into Unity right now. I don't want to switch engines. But let's see. So what do I want to do here? Specular color. Do I need to just pass a specular strength variable right now? It's also based on the because right now I just pass in the color. Which I really don't need because I just base it on the light. But maybe I shouldn't take away that ability. So specular strength. Basically, where do I alert between them here with the specular Toon Ramp, so I can just multiply this by the specular strength as well. And now I'll need to update the deferred lights just to, I guess I'll just pass one. I'm not sure how I'll get this. Maybe I can pass it as the alpha value in the specular buffer, but I'll think about that. And then here I would just pass okay, I did this wrong. So get specular strength. Maybe I'll just pass a float 4 here. So this would actually be float 4, specular color, RGB. Oh, well, no, not really. It could just have an alpha as well. Oh. Maybe I should restart Visual Studio. Anyway, we'll pass RGB here and then specular alpha as the color. I mean, that's the strength. It's too much to me. Figured it would be quicker to learn how to use Unity than it would be to make all the basic stuff in XNA. That's definitely true. I remember in my XNA game, which luckily was just a 2D sprite-based game, so it wasn't that complicated, but you basically have to create the whole rendering engine yourself. And Unity's rendering engine is pretty nice, so Yeah, that's a lot of work. What's the problem? Cannot implicitly convert from float 3 to float 4. Oh yeah, I just need to get the alpha value from that. And just a future proof. I'll just say that's a float 4, and then we'll get the RGB value in case we have transparency. I don't know if I'll ever support that. Still more of an issue. On line 55, oh well, lines don't appear up in the shader editor. Oh, this is the issue right here. Not convert from constant float 3. Oh yeah. I think that was the thing. Okay, and now this needs to be float 4, and we'll just always return 1 as the alpha. There we go. Oh yeah, now the specular and albedo are already float 4s. Okay, well, so I don't have to deal with that anymore. And now, yeah, we will just encode the specular strength as the alpha value in the specular buffer, so I can go ahead and update that as well. So float, specular strength. I'll just read this and get the alpha value. And you might think this is wasteful, but the shader compiler will actually combine these two together, so you don't have to have an individual variable to hold the effect or the float 4 and then separate them out. Okay, so now let's play. I can already see in the editor that we don't have that ugly black spot right there. Yeah, so when we move around, the red very faintly appears because it has just a faint specular color on his nose. Okay, well right now I don't really like how the specular color gets darkened as well, but that just has to do with the way I exported or made the specular map. Do I work in the game industry? Well, right now I'm trying to do my own indie games, so it's not this one I'm streaming. I have another game that I make off stream. And then I also do like software contracting to pay the bills. So what I'd really like to do is have this color to be white, but then we just change the alpha, which I think I can do, but it'll be difficult to see. What do I want to do? Yeah, so change the alpha to that and then just move that up. So now this is transparent, but there's no like grid in the background. I kind of wish you could add that in Inkscape, but I don't know if it's possible. I'll just export this and it should work how I want. So basically I don't want this to darken the specular color, but I still want the specular strength to be lower. And since specular strength is only encoded, well I think now I actually encode it in the R, so are the red component, so I'll need to fix that. Let's deferred lights. So alpha, and then, oh no, we'll just take the full thing. So this will just be a float 4. Okay. And so now the RGB are all 1, so they won't ever affect the specular color. Okay, yeah, so now the red is still there. Actually, I don't know if it updated because it was still in the play mode. Software contracting, what's that? What's the other game? Oh, I don't mind questions at all. Software contracting is basically if somebody just has a project that they want someone to help program, then they could just hire me on for that project. It's not like I'm not an actual employee, I just work there just for that one contract until it's up. Usually I do actually do it from my home office, so and then the other game I'm making, I actually haven't shown it that much on stream, although I hope to soon, but it's kind of like a platformer. Think it's a lot like Spelunky, actually, if you played that game. But it has some twists to keep it fresh, I hope. But yeah, I plan to stream my testing of it, which I think will begin in a couple months, so that should be fun. Okay, so it still is darker. I'm not sure. Is that because... like, I don't know if it's still fully red there, what's going on. Oh, actually it's just because it's blending more with the green, because the specular strength controls how much the albedo and the specular color lerp together. So I think that is how I want it to look. Alright, so the only other thing I wanted to do is it'd be nice if we could kind of control the size of the specular, excuse me, specular highlight. Although maybe that's basically the same thing as the specular strength. You love Spelunky? Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite games as well, even though I'm pretty horrible at it. So specular strength would be something like shrinking the size of this, but that's basically just the specular ramp. The only issue is that we can't set a specular ramp per object because... oh yeah, no we can't, because the deferred pass won't have a way to differentiate between, unless we did another texture ramp or texture array. And then I stored the specular index somewhere. We could maybe store it in the alpha of the albedo texture. But then we'd basically be out of storage. I wonder... I mean, I guess that's not a big deal. If we ever have to do anything else, I could try to fit them together somehow. Well, let's just see how a specular size variable would go. So, specular size, and kind of how, excuse me, how you deal with this is you would just raise this view dot to some power. So, view dot is pow view dot to the specular size, and this kind of constricts the the size of the ramp. So right now, let's just set it as a variable in this tune shader so I can just test it out. Specular size, range. I'm not sure if this is the right. I think that's okay. That's the right syntax is what I was trying to say. And then in the tune material lighting, we'll just have a float, specular size, and then I'll pass that through. And then in the deferred shader, we'll just pass 1 for now. Hollow Knight's your current favorite game. It's what inspired you to get back into programming. I actually haven't played that one yet, but I really want to because yeah, I'm a big fan of Metroidvania games, so I know I'd like it. Hopefully it'll go on sale soon so I won't have an excuse not to pick it up. Okay, so if I... Yeah, so it very rapidly shrinks the specular highlight, actually. Another thing I'd like to do, if we look... let me open it up real quick. Again, I'm a big fan of this modeler named Minions Art. I would definitely suggest checking her out on Twitter. But she has a really nice specular shader kind of tutorial. I don't know if I call it a tutorial, but more like a tip. And you can use this thing called specular offset to kind of create these rings, and it looks really good on hair specifically. So I kind of like to support that, but we don't definitely want to have any place to store that for the deferred shader. So now I'm kind of thinking maybe, I don't even know if I'll ever want to change the specular color itself. So maybe we can just encode specular strength, offset, and size into the RGB channels of the specular map. Yeah, I really do want to play it. So if I do that, again, I opened the wrong file. Well, first let's try it and see if it actually looks good. So common lighting, then we'll have specular offset. Getting a lot of variables passed in. It doesn't actually affect like compile time or anything, but I might want to combine these specular things into one structure or something. So the specular offset, I think you just add that to the view dot. Let me see exactly how she did it, Minions Art. Yeah, so they add that to the view dot. Now why does she multiply that by half? Oh, because it's before, like, they do the saturate. So this would make it go between -5 and 5. I don't know if that matters a whole lot. I guess, yeah, for the offset it would. Okay. So don't saturate it yet. Let's just use our format and see how it looks. And then at this point, I'll need to saturate it. Well, I guess I need to saturate it before I do the power because otherwise it'd get huge. Okay, so again, let's add an offset slider here. It doesn't need to be that big. What variables? Oh, I closed it. Maybe it'll give you some inspiration for my game too. I bet it would. I've wanted to make a Metroidvania as well, but I need to stop myself from starting projects. Okay, so 1/2 to 1. Okay, she actually does the size different than I do. I always forget what this step function does. I should maybe look that up. Actually, I think it's just a smoothing thing, so we won't need that because that'll be in the ramp. Specular offset. One, 0. Let's see. Oh no, it needs to start at 1/2 because we divide it by 2. Yeah. Yeah. And this was actually a lot more powerful than I thought, so I'm gonna lower the power here just so we can have more granular control. Okay, and then here we need to get a specular offset variable. And I'll just pass that through here. And on the deferred lighting, I'll just pass the default value, which is 1/2. Okay, so nothing should change. Okay, oh, probably because I did change some of the math around, so. Yeah. Okay, so that actually just seems to make it bigger. That's not really what I thought would happen. That constricts it. Okay, so I must not be doing the math perfectly. Because what I want to get are those rings like she has there. So the step. Let me look up exactly what that step function does. Okay, so Unity CG step. Oops, I accidentally closed my dashboard. All right, anyway, step function. Okay, so it generates. Okay, I thought it did something like this. The edge. It's kind of like lerping between, but I think if you are above the step, then it will return 0. Oh, here it is. For element I, return value is 0. If it's less than edge, it's 1 if it's greater than edge. Okay, well, let's just copy her code and see. So specular size. Yeah, because she actually doesn't do the POW thing that I do. And that's the ramp value. So I guess I'll need to get 3. Specular ramp is this. Oh, that's actually. I can just use specular LARP, no reason to save it. And then specular LARP equals times step specular size, and then the ramp and then the strength, which is my own variable, but okay, so maybe we take out the POW. Let's comment that in case I use it. But we will saturate this. Alright, so let's look, see how that is. Something wrong. Oh, I probably put the definition keyword in there twice by accident. Okay, so the offset, and it seems like... Oh, right, and the ramp values are different. Let's just change this from 0 to 1 just to see what it looks like. Doesn't seem to do much. Does she actually... Yeah, because this ring is made with a low specular size and then a medium offset. What am I doing wrong? Maybe I shouldn't try to copy it and just make my own version of it because my algorithm is a little different. Okay, so let's see. This offset basically just changes the view normal. Okay, and this is either 0 or 1, right? Yeah, 0 if it's less than the edge and 1 otherwise. Let's see. Yes, I did that right. Okay, so x is the... So if x is less, or if the second value is less than the first value, then it returns 0. So let's see. If the lerp is less than the size that I... So basically if the specular ramp value is less than the size, then it returns 0. But I think my specular ramp is actually either 0 or 1, which is probably why it wasn't very smooth. Okay, well, it has this small value in the middle. Another way I could make those rings is if I had a black area at the tip. But the problem is I can't really define a ramp per material. Well, I guess I could. Maybe that's the way to go. Okay, well, let's see how that works. So this, I'd have another texture array for the tune ramps, and these would be actually per object. I don't know. I don't really know if I want to do another texture array because there might be a whole lot of objects and there's like a limited size of the texture array that you can have. Okay, maybe I'm spending too much time on trying to get this to work perfect, but so let's bring it back to how I had it originally, and maybe I'll just try to, I should try to just get that ring my own way instead of trying to copy the algorithm. Yeah, so go back. Oh yeah, so now I need to let size have a higher range. Although these seem to do almost the exact same thing, don't they? Maybe like this offset, if I made the tune ramp like repeat, I think then the offset might have rings. Where was I? No, it doesn't work like that. Probably because I saturate it. Yeah, because it clamps it at 1. Oh wait, I need to take this out. It still doesn't work. Mind if you ask a general programming question? No problem. Go ahead. Alright, well that was kind of hacky anyway. Yes, I want to change... Oh, I actually didn't... I think that would have worked because but I changed the wrong map, so that was my fault. Oh, let's just... might as well test it. Take out the saturate. Okay, yeah, so that does create a ring, but that's only because it kind of loops around. I mean, maybe that's okay, and I just make the spec ramp instead of repeating mirror. And that does what I want, actually. And then if I made the size bigger... Okay, so let's go back in here and increase the range. The only problem there is that it starts looping weirdly. But this is the effect I want. Like I said, it looks really good on hair. Well, I mean, this works, so that looks so cool. Yeah, I think it will be nice. Let's change it back to white. Oh yeah, when it's not in play mode, it's hard to see anything. Yeah, so it looks pretty cool. I just, I do like it, but I'm not sure if this is like, if I want to depend on having the specular ramp mirror like that. Because what if we wanted the inside to be a little bit more defined? I guess, actually, one way I could do that pretty easily is if on the specular ramp, I changed it so like right here is 1 and then this is greater than 1 in terms of the dot product. So let's change this again to pixels. I just kind of want to see what 128 is. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'll move that down. Something like that. And then we'll mirror this on the other side. Maybe start it a little. Okay, don't really need that. Oh, well now the alpha is gonna, that'll be transparent, not white. Okay, and bring this down. Oh, did I not copy? I accidentally just deleted it. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see the middle point, but this should be good enough. And if I just export it, right now it'll look kind of weird. I need to reload the game. Yeah, because now the specular is going to be huge because, as we can see here, it's like halfway around the object. Because right now, the light part is mapped to the dot product of 1/2. So we actually want the middle of the ramp to be mapped to dot product of 1. So let's see, how do I do this? I guess we just take this and then divide it by 2 again. Or multiply it by 1/2 is probably a better way to do it. And then I need to saturate this. Well, I want to... Okay, so I actually want to keep it like this, and then we divide it by 1/2 after doing the power. Or multiply it by 1/2. Okay, so let's... Yeah, there we go, that's better. So if the offset, yeah, is 1/2, then it's basically how it was before. But when you add an offset, then it starts reading from this part of the ramp, which is basically for the ring. Let's make it really obvious that it is different though. Oops, wrong file. Let's extend this a lot more on the inside of the ring. Okay, so now it still has the highlight color. I want to get in here and just change the offset even more. Yeah, so the inside of the ring is has a very wider area, or much wider area of the halfway point. That's because it's reading from this side of the ramp. Size still works great. It basically just constricts everything. Okay, I really like that. Now what I want to do is we can see, well, none of the egg dino would actually have this ring effect, but on finished characters, well, I guess not finished characters, but more human characters that have hair and stuff, we wouldn't want the ring specular to appear on the feet, for example. We just want it on the hair. So, like I said, I think I'm going to change the specular map so that instead of encoding an actual specular color, we'll just have this encode information about the specular at different points on the object. Because we need specular strength, size, and offset, so that will be red, green, and blue. So yeah, let's see. And this was... yeah, the greens, which was the skin. So we don't want it to have much specular, so we'll bring the red down. Well, first we'll bring alpha back. And then green is the specular size, and blue is the specular offset. I think we can leave those the same, and then everything else will just be blue. I guess we should test something. Well, the specular offset actually goes from... yeah, so these values go from 0 to 1, so we have to decide what the maximum would be. I have this go to 20. Probably fine, and then this goes to 1. From 1/2 to 1. So probably 0. Blue value will just be specular offset of 0. And really for the entire egg dino we want the specular offset to be 0, so everything should have no blue. Can I select multiple things? I don't know if it will let me do that. Okay, but yeah, it adds all the colors up. But no blue. And the specular size, that will be 20. Let's just test that out. Oh, I missed your... I'm sorry, it didn't show up in chat. I was actually wondering if you would decide not to ask after all. Now let me... yeah, sorry Dylan, I don't see it in chat. That's kind of weird. Maybe can you copy and paste it? I don't know. I turned off the auto moderator, so I didn't get any messages that it got hidden. No, I still don't see it. How weird. Think let me see. Go to my settings. Maybe it's too long. I guess that could be. I'd be fine with you cutting into parts. Or you can maybe whisper it to me. Yeah, it shouldn't have... Well, I should have at least got a message if it blocked something, but... Okay, now I got it. I guess it was too long. This might be long. When you started making an open world space game in XNA and to overcome the issues that arise when float numbers are too big, I made it like a chunk system. When the camera moves past 1,000,000 on the XY plane, the chunk number as XY increases. Every object in the game world has 2 vector, 2 for position. But the test wasn't any huge drawback. Global Space Program does a similar thing as far as you can tell. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. But it was super simple to make, so why don't more people do it? I guess a lot of time, well, probably it just has to do with not very many games run into that issue. It's only like space simulation games. But yeah, that's probably what I would do is if, well, like in Unity, you can't like change the way it really encodes position, so I would like have a separate variable to keep track of its real position, but then, I don't know, maybe every 1,000 meters or something, I would actually snap back everything into game relatively to 0 so that the rounding errors don't get too large. So even though like the display position would be 0, then the rest of the objects would actually be at their real position. But I guess it's just more problems, so people, they don't have to do it, so they just don't. Okay. Oop, I'm actually running low on time, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to finish this. Right now the specular is going to be all weird. So like I said, we're not going to encode specular color at all anymore. We'll just use the light. Yeah, so no specular color, and this specular size offset. I'll just change this to be float 3 specular info, and specular info is, so the red is, what did I say? Specular strength, specular size, and specular offset is RGB. Since you're Discord, you're doing something wrong. I think the way you did it will work fine. Actually, yeah, it probably, since in XNA, since you have more control over it, then probably using the 2 vector 2s would be less buggy, so. And no problem. And thanks for following, Dylan. I do appreciate it. Let's see if I can finish this real quick. So specular info, I just need to change specular strength to specular info.r. Actually, let's not do that. Let's just get all 3 values here. Float specular strength is specular info.r, and specular size, oh I spelled that wrong, specular soz is spec info.green, and offset is spec info.blue. Okay, so now I don't have to go around hunting for variables to change. And in the deferred lights, just so it won't complain to me, let's just return our send float 3 111. We'll fix that later. And here, change this to get specular info, and then we'll just read out from the texture. I guess we'll still have these values, but we won't have a specular color anymore. Let's change that to specular strength. So we multiply that by a float for specular strength. Oops. Let's just copy this variable so I don't have to type it out and potentially make a typo. Offset is blue or green? Offset's blue. And then the alpha is 1. Alright, and now here, let's get rid of the specular color. And I want to add another float for specular strength. Range 0 to 1 with a default of 1. Okay, and I need to multiply the specular size by 20, and then the specular offset, I need to half it and add 1/2. Specular size by 20 and offset. Divide by, oh wait, times 1/2 plus 1/2. So now this is in the range of 0.5 to 1, and this is range of 0 to 20. Okay, we don't need this at all, but actually I don't think we'll have anything different for the forward pass. So hopefully this will all work the same as before. Nuclear identifier, specular color. Oh yeah, this doesn't exist anymore. So specular color is just the light color. Tune line cannot convert from float 3 to unity light. Oh, here. Libido, specular info, normal, view light, and ramp index. Oh, yeah, I don't need this specular anymore. Get specular. Oh yeah, this is just get specular info. Also, I didn't change this. So yeah, now we just return, or just send specular.rgb because it doesn't care about the alpha. And okay, so yeah, I need to change these so that they don't affect anything. Or do I multiply them? I guess they should all be ranged from 0 to 1 now. Here, so range 0 to 1, 0 to 1, because they basically just multiply the specular info texture. And so if we have 1, that's just a default. Okay, so 0 should actually be... Let's see, how do I want to do this? Because 0 should actually just be 1. So actually we'll multiply this by 19 and then add 1. So this is a range of 1 to 20 instead of 0 to 20. Okay. I think it still hasn't loaded the specular information yet. So again, there shouldn't be much specular at all on the nose. Everything else... Okay, well, specular is still there, and then nothing has any offset or anything, but I need to Does this even affect it? Okay, I guess I messed up the math somewhere. Okay, yeah, I'm rushing now because I need to go eat lunch, but I guess we'll finish this up tomorrow. Let me write some notes. Okay, we kind of did that, but we just need to test offset, test strength, and test, what was the other one? Size, and then deferred mode, which will just store this stuff into the normal specular deferred buffer. Okay, so we spent most of the day working on specular highlights, but that's okay. It's pretty important to get it looking right. And we got ambient light done, so we need to do rim lights. That's interesting. I don't know what I'll do for that. Maybe I'll just use the same specular information. I don't know. We'll see. Spotlights. Okay, none of this should be too difficult, I hope. Thanks, Dylan. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm pretty hungry, so I'm sure it'll be good. But thanks everybody for coming by and watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to know when I go live tomorrow at about noon Eastern time, feel free to follow me here or also either on my Twitter. I always try to post there when I go live. If you missed any stream and you'd like to catch up, you can check out my YouTube, and I also have a Discord channel where I'd love to be able to chat with you throughout the day. But I'll put links in chat and also on my video description. And I keep on wanting to do streams during the rest of the day, so do keep a lookout. I don't know exactly when I'll be able to, but I'll definitely let you guys know. But yeah, that's it for me for today. And again, thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.